Welcome to this customer panel. The theme that we want to explore with you is innovation in relationship to changing customer needs. And to that extent, I've got three really rather wonderful stories that we're going to explore with you during this particular session. And I'd like to begin by introducing my panel who are going to be telling those stories. So Harold, would you just like to introduce yourself, the organization, and the part that you play within it?
Yes, so my name is Harold van Driel and I'm working for Electrolux. I'm responsible as a business transformation manager / product owner for the omnichannel and AI solutions within Electrolux that we're rolling out. And we're rolling out a pan-European platform.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Paul Wild. I'm the Senior Director of Transformation for BCD Travel, responsible for technology within the contact center.
Wonderful. And my last guest for this panel is Ezra. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Esra Turan. I'm responsible for the Denizbank Contact Center in Turkey. I've been working in contact center industry for 20 years. And Denizbank is the fifth Turkish private bank with 690 branches and more than 12,000 employees. And our contact center manages 4 million calls in a month, inbound, outbound, with 1,500 agents.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So we've got a nice variety of different sectors and different situations to explore with you. Harold, let's start with the Electrolux story. And given the theme that we've got, which is the changing customer need, what's been significant? I mean, I guess probably going online in the absence of being able to visit stores might have been one of the triggers for some of the story that you're about to tell.
Correct. In general, Electrolux wants to expand its direct to consumer business anyway. So the online story, and that basically accelerated because of COVID. That became much more in need. And we've developed basically two use cases to help consumers online when they have issues. One of them is basically chat related, which has two elements, reactive and predictive, and the other one is internet call tracking. So that basically means that if a consumer from the website does a click to call, that we can track where they actually started their call from. Did they click on an advertisement and then entered into our call center, or did they click on the contact us icon on one of the web pages? So that's one side story. So that's reactive voice, but then the benefit to the agent is the agent can see the consumer was here when they started their call, and if it's a campaign, they can see what campaign they're actually interested in. So what advertisement did they actually select? And that's a solution that we doing in a combination of an App Foundry partner from Genesis combined with the Genesis solution. So we basically have tracking on the website that allows us to basically then track these calls from basically click to purchase, basically, hopefully.
That's really interesting, because I mean, it's been a problem ever since e-commerce started, hasn't it? That the conversion rate is always the most challenging.
Yeah, and the other element that you see is that people just browse away, and that's what we're trying to address with the predictive engagement solution. So if we see behavior that the consumer is not progressing in their journey online where they should, then we basically offer them a chat proactively. We also have the option that if the consumer, while they're in that journey, if they contact us by clicking chat themselves, then we can also then pick up that journey. We have a bot in the background that can respond to that and then ask them sales-related questions, and then connect to the right resource to avoid that the consumer then browse away and then, for instance, abandons their cart.
That's interesting. So the bot in that circumstance, just collects a little bit more information about their need.
Correct.
Identify the intent.
Yeah.
Do you get any resolution at that point, or are you typically then transferring that to live assistance?
Our philosophy is to get it to an agent as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Just double check that there's genuine interest.
Yes.
And then move to a live resource, because there's a sales opportunity out there.
And I think I understood you correctly by saying that whatever that customer has been doing, that digital footprint is then represented on the agent desktop so that they can pick up the conversation.
Yeah. Whether the consumer started their journey with the reactive, so they started chat themselves, or proactive, where we offer them a chat, the system basically tracks their behavior on the website. We basically have the tool to just scan the entire journey of the consumer while on the website.
Okay.
And then so the agent can, for instance, see that the consumer already passed the right web page 3 times, but just wasn't looking in the right spot. It's,
I would imagine that your numbers look better as a result of that. The conversion rate must improve with that kind of proactive information.
yes, for the markets where we have this deployed, it helps. One thing that you do see is it's from a contact center perspective. There's also there's the technical capability. And then there's the transformation and the adoption. And the adoption, that's where we see that we, because we currently have 6, soon to be 11 markets live of the 20 plus that we get markets that will get this solution. And what we can see is that some markets are already very active on this. They are digitally mature, so to say.
Yeah.
And some markets are still very conservative. So then trying to sell through chat is something that then still needs a little bit of education and support in the contact center to enable that. And so then you've basically sort of solved the technical issue, but then there's still the adoption part that's just as relevant.
Interesting. So in terms of the modality, voice or text, as it happens to be chat in this instance, is there some rhyme or reason to what the customers are choosing? Is it, you've mentioned the fact you've got a number of geographies there. Is it a cultural thing? Is it a digital evolution?
Yeah, it's partially a cultural thing. One philosophy that we have is that the consumer should be able to contact us in the channel of their choosing.
Yes.
But at the same time, we also have a rules like that we can gently deflect the consumer to a more appropriate channel if we feel that's more appropriate. So for instance, if we see that they're looking for online content and they called us, then we're trying to move them to online for very particular scenarios, sport scenarios. And it differs per market, where we can see that some markets are already very big on digital, like Sweden, which is not on our system yet, but they will move on our system soon. They are already using some older digital systems, and the consumers are very comfortable using it, as well as the agents.
Yes.
While other markets are still very traditional, and that's where we then start more on a voice journey. Of course, the benefit with Genesis is that then balancing between which channel you use, it all ends up in the same solution. So in the end, it's all about skill assignment in the end.
As a matter of interest, what's your decision on the skilling? Is that, are you multi-skilling advisors, or are you keeping them as separate capabilities?
We are multi-skilling them. Currently, we have social still separate because of the nature, but chat, email, voice is as much as possible combined. And it's not that every agent has all 3, but we're trying to mix as much as possible. And what we've done is we've also set up the channel as a separate skill. Genesis is already channel aware, but we've also given the agent the channel as a skill. And the benefit there is that we can really say that we can take people off a certain channel if they need to focus on something else.
Interesting. And is that service as a customer available to me 24/7, or am I only able to do that in opening hours and then I'm interfacing with the bot for the remainder of that time?
The planning is to go to 24/7 and then have to have the bot support more. One thing that we're working on is AI callback. So what we're trying to do is keep the bot open 24/7. Let the bot collect as much about the consumer as possible, and then basically offer a time slot to be contacted back by us when we reopen.
Interesting.
And again, that's not all markets using it yet, but some markets have started. And currently, the markets that are live, primarily the Iberian and Italian markets are really using this feature a lot already.
Advice for people on the cultural or national differences, rolling out that kind of solution. What have you learned there?
Well, yeah, really look at the audience. Is the audience, so not only the market, the audience of the company also into a digital journey. It's in social markets, when people want to repair the dishwasher, they want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
When they want to buy something, they want to talk to somebody. While in the Nordic markets, people feel less comfortable talking to somebody, and it would rather do a digital journey.
Yeah.
Because it's easy, and especially we're now migrating from classic web chat to web messaging. It becomes even an easier journey because you can just place your question, continue with work, and at some point you'll get the answer. And then waiting time is also no longer an issue because you'll get the answer when it's there. It's WhatsApp style communication. Yes. And I think that's where I can see that some of the markets that are a little bit more conservative on the synchronous chat are more open to look at asynchronous chat because they can more relate to that as well. And
asynchronous is not an issue as far as somebody purchasing, because, you know, capturing them before they lose interest and go to a competitor, you don't have a worry on that?
No, but that's where we're deploying the predictive, and so
okay.
So then we, one of the things that we do with our predictive journeys, which we primarily use for sales scenarios, is that we skip the bot in that case. Then we retry it because we know already so much about the consumer, what they were doing, what they were clicking, what they were looking at, and then we just connect them directly to an advisor.
Interesting. Okay, so that's a great story, I think, and still one that a lot of people are working on and getting right. So I think that's very interesting. That's in a sales context. You've also got an interesting story about the service context, and I suppose, again, thrown up through COVID, the problem that we have not being able to work face to face as one of the drivers, but also the cost of it. And this applies to anybody who's got to send people out to somebody's house, to somebody's workplace, the cost associated with that. You've been experimenting with video, I understand, and how's that been going?
Correct. So we've been experimenting with video last year separately, so a separate channel, separate from Genesis, and that had a mixed success. That primarily had to do with the staffing and the tooling. One of the rules that we have with our project is that we try to have one single environment where the agent works from, and the POC was a decision to do it separately with a separate tool, and you could see that was sort of hindering people from switching to that tool. So I'm in a phone conversation or I'm in a chat conversation about a problem, and then switching the video, that caused issues for the agents. What we're now looking at is we have 2 new use cases. One of them is about to go live. That's more a sales related story. So that's where we're going to escalate from chat to video, and then the agent is actually the one that needs video the most, because they can then the consumer will be connected to an agent in a demo room, basically a glorified kitchen with all of the equipment. And then they can basically present the articles that the consumer was looking at live, answer questions, point things out. That's the other use case. And then the secondary use case that we're looking at for later in the year is that we're going to revamp the video use case, but then integrate it inside Genesis. So then, because then it should be very easy for the agent to escalate from voice to video. So just stay on the same voice conversation, just send a link to the consumer, and then have the video in the same session or from a chat session. And the big benefit there for us is that especially for the in-warranty journey, but also for out-of-warranty, because it saves the consumer money. Sometimes the engineer comes on site and it's something very simple, and then either the company has spent a lot of money getting the engineer out there, or the consumer spent a lot of money to get the engineer out there to get €1 out of a filter, to give an example. What we're trying to do then with the video is that so the agent can actually see what's going on, give advice there. And what we then also have, and that's now deployed in our UK market, is that we also strengthen the agents, because the agents have a really good knowledge base, but they had to search for the right content manually. And what we just deployed about 5 weeks ago in the UK is that any consumer that calls in, the knowledge base is actually connected to a listener. So basically then there's what we call it an AI assistant, listens into the conversation and just does in the background searches in the knowledge base. And it just presents on the side panel to the agent, like, these are the articles that might be relevant to your conversation. And you can see while the conversation is ongoing, the articles are changing based on what the consumer is saying. And that helps the agents just be more confident, and they don't have to search manually, so it also saves handling time. And that also contributes then to the opportunity for the agent to resolve the issue with the consumer online. So service visit avoidance, because that's the big driver. Every time we don't have to send an engineer out, it's at least €70 that we save, because it's getting there, driving, the time spent, and so on.
That's fantastic. I'm a huge fan, by the way, of that proactive push of knowledge, onto the agent desktop. I think it's a fantastic innovation. That
correct. And to go back to COVID, what it also is, because we still have a lot of agents working from home. Also, in the UK market, it's like 50-50. And it's not like I can quickly ask a colleague because I'm working from home. And now you basically have your virtual assistant pushing the article, so that also helps build confidence for home working agents.
Well, it upskills them, doesn't it? And it allows you to actually get new recruits faster, into productive mode. That's great. Well, you've actually done some really exciting things there, and used a lot of the capability in a really innovative way. Thank you. I think we've got to stop on that point, because I've got 2 other stories to have. But I think you shared a lot of there, Harold, of some really great stuff that I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in. So thank you very much for that. Ezra, let's talk about banking, another sector.
Yes.
it's been very competitive, hasn't it? There have been, you know, all
Yes, it
sorts
is.
of new recruits coming into the market. There's been intense competition. I suppose we've changed as customers in terms of how we want to interact with you. So as a bank, what sort of have you been thinking about in terms of how you're going to stand out in this new busy marketplace?
We think that we have to more competitive here because as you say, the customer needs are changing. So we have to do more different things from our competitors. So we have started with our IVR, but of course we are changing all the channels as well with the internet branch, mobile side. Of course, digital customer experience is very important. So especially with the pandemic time, so we are all changing all our digital channels and to get better experience. And the Harold said very important things, being proactively, the customer needs being proactive for not e-commerce or for not all the other things. Of course, they are waiting from banks to be proactive as well.
Talking about IVR as an example, that's a big moment of truth, isn't it? In many, many customer journeys. It can be very hard work, very upsetting, often inaccurate, and a real disappointment for the customer. So I think the first thing, when we were talking before, you mentioned that you converted your IVR to being one where I can speak to it and it understands me. That's a big plus to begin with.
Yes, it's true. As you said, the IVR is very important channel for us. We are getting 4 million calls for every month, inbound and outbound. But the customer experience is very important too. With the productivity and customer experience, we have to get a balance. So we have started to change our IVRs with our co-steering project. But before the project, maybe I can explain about the before it, because all our other competitors in Turkey had started to change their IVRs to the co-steering. So we are a little bit late. So we said that we are late, so we have to do something different from them. Everything was started with it. So we said that the customer needs are changing. So we have to do a very different but very good IVR. So we said that we have to differentiate from other competitors. And we analyzed with our data scientists. We opened all our speech analytics database. We use speech analytics as well. We opened our speech analytics database them, and we looked for that the customers are why calling us and what they need. So of course we have done lots of surveys as well. And most of our customers, of course, say that you don't get surprised. They don't like complicated menu trees. You know, everybody doesn't like it. And they want to reach an agent as soon as possible and solve their problem. At the same time, they don't want to explain their needs with so many words. So we said that we had to combine customer needs and of course the productivity. So with this vision, we have created our proactive virtual voice assistant on GVP platform, of course, and we call it Deniz. Deniz means sea, Deniz Bank, sea bank, like that. And it's our proactive IVR with a human natural dialogue. We use, of course, NLP and voice recognition, but we with an intelligent model. We say that Deniz can do lots of things, can complete about more than 70 functions by itself. And the most important thing that can predict the customer needs with several scenarios. But we have talked before, as you said, it's not general scenarios. The scenarios are tailor-made, we say that, tailor-made scenarios for every customer. With this proactive IVR, we worked our CRM department, our marketing department, with all this vision we have done it. And maybe we used Genesis open platforms. Of course, it was very important for us for these services with all the channel transactions. When a customer call us, Deniz analyzes customer previous interactions with ATM, mobile, internet branch, or credit card. I know that you like that scenario too much. For example, when our customer get a decline from the credit card, when she calls us, I know that why he's calling me. So we say that when the customer call us, are you calling me for your getting decline? And yes or no, and go on. It's about 90% are true, our predictions, but of course we have got less than. So we are always checking our scenarios and sometimes taking out some scenarios and do it better analysis. So it's very, it's always going on. We never say that it's done. Every day is it's changing. Maybe I can say a few scenarios as well. We have different things. For example, when a customer before calling us, the ATM merchant can capture the debit card or credit card. And when the customers say that, why I am asking him that, why are you calling me? So I know that why he is calling me now. Or for a credit card block message or credit card PIN block, internet PIN block. There are various of scenarios about the customer transactions. So we are using all of them, and the customers are very happy with these proactive scenarios.
I think it's a really interesting story that, you know, I think there's a huge transformation. Let's just go back to the original idea of IVR. You know, it's such a difference if you're using natural language understanding for a start. But you've added on to that, as you said, you wanted to be different in the marketplace because everybody was going there. And to then think about what you've really got there is the ability to either have inbound or outbound conversation.
Yes.
And the ability to link that outbound intervention in a customer situation where, as we said, you might have a declined credit card, you might need more credit or something, to be able to actually link those different channels together. And I find myself as a customer suddenly receiving a call from you saying, by the way, is this what's happening? If so, we can help you right now. I mean, that is an amazing experience to be able to give to a customer.
Yes, you're right. The customers are getting very happy because you are trying to buy something and getting a decline because your limit is not enough. And I'm processing. If I can offer you a limit increase, I'm as soon as possible calling you with Genesis or outbound contact managers, and any agent say you that if you want, I can increase your limit. It's a really good experience for the bank, for credit card, for customer side. It's a really great experience. So all our customers like it very much.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You've got one other story, which I just wanted to cover very quickly, which is if I'm a high value customer, and again, people are beginning to talk quite a lot about the different expectations that high value customers have got in terms of how they want to be served. And you've got some clever things that you're doing, particularly when they're going into a branch situation. Tell us that story.
Yes, this project is different from our IVR project. As you said, our high value customers. So they say that we will do it in the center with a remote portfolio management model. And they say that it's impossible that you cannot manage it because these customers like the conversation with the face-to-face.
Yes.
So you cannot do it on the phone. And we say that, yes, we can do it. And maybe it's really good to say that thanks to Genesis Enterprise Solutions, because we have used all of them, video, Genesis video, chat, intelligent routing, we have outbound, we used all of them. And when the customer call us, we match the agents and customers together. And of course, they have a backup agents as well. And we send all the customer message that your portfolio manager, for example, Paul, and you can call him from this number. But in any case, we routed all the channels to the Paul. If the customer use the mobile, our mobile application to call the call center, Paul answer. If the customer writes from the chat, Paul answer. Everywhere full of Paul. And so it was a good experience for our customers. We really use Genesis capabilities with these. And we monitored their transaction as well with the IVR capabilities. And when the customer, it goes to the branch, as you said, it's very good experience. They take a ticket from the system in the branch, so it notifies our Genesis outbound contact manager, and we call them to ask, is there anything, Paul calls and say that, is there anything that we can help for you? So we know that you are in the branch. I can do something for you. So of course they are very surprised. How do you know? Do you see me? Something like that. And except for cash operations, we explain the customer again, we can do everything for you. You don't need to go to the branch.
Yes.
So really it worked. Before coming here, I checked it again. About 50% of customers are decreasing to go to the branch. With this contact, we have done it. Especially in these pandemic days with the COVID. So it's very good experience for them. And it's very good for our branches too, because it's getting less people are going to the branch. So we are trying to do more, to use this capability for other segments, customers as well. But we can say that we can accomplish this duty.
That's great. So I think there's two really good, powerful points there. One is, the ability to create a one-to-one relationship, which I think is incredibly powerful, and it opens up interesting possibilities of how far you can extend that, possibly beyond just high-value customers. But that's a very powerful thing. And then the education of customers, and they're probably slightly less familiar with alternative ways of engaging, teaching them they could be doing it digitally, which then actually reinvents what the role of the branch can be, which is interesting, a point that you've also made there as well, because face-to-face has still got value, but you can use it in a slightly different kind of a way.
But
so,
I like to add some more, sorry about that. Some of our customers sending some gifts to the center, to our agents, because we said that I think we accomplished that, this face-to-face relationship with them, but not face-to-face, video, chat, and of course with the phone.
Well, it's all about developing an empathy, isn't it, between yourself and that customer, and doing that in a kind of powerful,
Yes.
scalable kind of a way. But fantastic, Ezra. Thank you so much for those stories.
Thank you very much.
Really inspiring. Right, let's change track now, and we'll move into another space, one that's been really quite turbulent actually during the last couple of years, which is travel, business travel in particular. And Paul has been right in the thick of reinventing how customer experience can be imagined and what you can do with that. So Paul, would you just like to tell us a little bit about, you know, what you're really doing for customers, because you're working directly with brands and organizations who then have individuals within them that need to go travel somewhere. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so we're obviously a business travel company. Pre-COVID, we know business travel in itself, it can be complicated and last minute changes. You know, so being proactive, enabling our agents to have everything they need to you know, action these requests up until, you know, boarding time in some instances. Throw into the mix COVID and, you know, and cancellations, rebooking, every airport, airline, hotel, country having their own rules and regulations, when to wear a mask, when not to. You know, getting that information to our agents to pass on to our travelers, you know, was super important to us, and we were able to you know, move very quickly into that area where just empowering our travelers to, you know, to help them as much as possible.
Because it's still been, depending on what part of the world you're hearing this from, but I think generally everybody's found that we're still rebuilding our capabilities as airlines and airports, aren't we, at this point in time? You know, trying to get enough people to be able to process people and give them a great experience. And it hasn't been seamless. As we speak, it's been a difficult holiday period, and probably also coming into the summer, it's going to be equally frustrating. So customers, business customers, I know, are particularly particular about having a low, you know, effort experience, and one that suits their particular needs as well. So I guess from your point of view, you need the ability to talk in an easy way and to accommodate them and let them know instantly almost what's going on.
No, again, absolutely. I think a lot of companies have the challenge where, you know, you're recruiting people, you have your 3-6 month plan to bring people back into the organization, into the industry, and you know, we still don't know fully how much travel will come back. So it's a fine balance, you know, and as we said at the start, the expectation of a business traveler, they need to connect to an agent in any way they can, and how you support that. You know, so you know, we transitioned our business a little bit to where a lot of our clients had dedicated agents, and they moved into kind of a shared service now. There's conversations about moving back to dedicated agents, and you know, and introducing a new channel like Messenger, and how that works with dedicated or blended agents servicing multiple different clients at the same time. Throw into the mix, you know, an agent skilled on both voice, chat, and email. Managing capacity rules. Can they manage 2 chats at the same time? Can they manage 2 chats, 1 email? Yes. What happens when the phone rings? You know, and you know, try not to put too much pressure on the agent, but maintain that excellent customer experience.
Have you found, I think a number of people have, that messaging is a more economic form of communication than email, which can often take quite a few batting backwards and forwards before you finally get to a resolution, and people seem to be veering towards using messaging?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, email has been around for so long now. It's embedded in lots of cultures, you know, and there's lots of initiatives to move people away from email, whether that's automation via the email channel, or, you know, channel deflection and kind of advising that there's better alternatives. You know, email comes with the long SLAs. It can be, conversations can happen over days and weeks, you know, and moving to a messenger channel, you know, gets the, you know, same information across, but in much shorter time frames.
Yeah. So you're, just to be clear, I think you're primarily engaging me as a business traveler through the app, and that's the means with which I'm going to sort of get my information, and also if I need to talk to you. So there's an embedded messaging capability there. But I also understand that you're prepared to accommodate the default version of messaging if indeed the client themselves has got an alternative standard that they tend to use in their own organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When we were looking at the messenger channel a few years ago, we only had our travel app in our minds. We wanted to have a one-stop for our travelers where they can, search for hotels, search for flights, make bookings, get their documentation, get their COVID information at the touch of a button. And so it's been really interesting. Yeah, and so we spent a lot of time in development integrating into our app and our web chat, and then we got to talking to a few customers, and they weren't using our app. Not every one of our customer does, and so talk of integrating into other third-party tools like Slack or Teams. And what was interesting was the adapters and the development we were doing for the app very easily kind of transferred over to Teams and Slack. Using the web API, we were able to provide a really nice solution. Working with our customers, working with their IT security, going through their internal processes to have the app and the bot installed on their environment, but connecting through our gateway, through Genesis, to our agents. Yeah, it was
that's
a very good solution.
Yes, and I just wanted to highlight that to everybody because that's an incredible opportunity to personalize the service to a client, normally non-trivial as well. And yet you're indicating that actually, with the wonders of digital glue these days and APIs and everything, that you can actually accommodate that without too much trouble.
Sure. One of the big differentiators between business travel and leisure is we know who our travelers are. We have our profile databases. As soon as you engage with us, we know exactly who you are, which company you represent, your previous trips, that whole knowledge. It's not a random person from the internet, and so we're able to really personalize, whether that's a personalized greeting, a personalized whole message. We can even do branding, although I might get into trouble for saying that. We can add logos and things like that, so it can become a very, very personalized experience, or we can divert them to our app and they get the same thing.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So time has flown by, as it always does in these conversations. I hope you've enjoyed listening to those stories. Hearing them from my perspective, two things have come through really, really strongly. One is proactive. The business of trying to get closer to that customer need, anticipate it as much as possible. And if they do need to engage with you, make it incredibly easy for them to do that. That strikes me as being one thing. And then the other thing that's come through in all the stories, again, has been, which is associated, is personalization. Doing it in the way that the customer wants to have it done. And of course, underneath of that is driven by the data, our knowledge of the customer data. And it's great to have 3 stories in which we're really extracting value from that data that we know about customers, as opposed to simply collecting it. And it's still the same vanilla service. And it's good to hear that now there's a kind of a benchmark of experience that's taking place for customers, where they really can have a service that is tailored to their particular requirements, and those organizations give an experience of them listening and being highly responsive. So 2 themes that have come through. I hope you've enjoyed that. This has all been about innovating in relationship to changing customer needs. I hope it's inspired you, and thank you very much for tuning into this particular customer panel. Thank you.